Imagine a plant that can reduce methane emissions from ruminant animals by 90%, absorb 10 times more carbon than trees, help with ocean acidification, and provide a sustainable habitat that assists in food production. Maybe this plant is something you see often, maybe even something you step over and don't give a second thought. What if I told you that this plant is actually seaweed? Most of the time when we think of the vast majority of plants, the last thing that comes to mind are the aquatic ones, when really they are the ones that are more vital to our environment. The oceans produce most of the world's oxygen. About 70% of it comes from seaweed and microscopic algae from the oceans. Now, let's have a look at some of the things that contribute to our carbon emissions. For example, we have electricity, heat, industry emissions, and our transportation, such as cars and planes. One other main contributor that most of us know of is methane. Methane is produced by ruminant animals, such as cows and sheep, and is released when the animal either belches or passes gas, which, yes, is farting. Cattle and other ruminants produce about 37% of the world's methane. Cattle alone produces 25%. Since the Industrial Revolution, 20% of the warming of the planet can be attributed to methane. That is from the National Geographic. According to Dr. Kinley, who is a research scientist with the CSIRO, all seaweed can reduce methane a little bit. This one can reduce it almost completely. He is talking about the Asparagopsis taxiformis, a red seaweed that is native to the shores of Queensland, Australia, and New Zealand. America consumes 450 million kilograms of beef just at McDonald's each year, which is less than 4% of America's total beef consumption. This also does not include the 9.5 million dairy cows. When we think of sustainable eating, we think of going vegan as the main solution. But I am not here to change people's eating habits, but to find solutions for existing dietary norms. We need an evolution, not a revolution. We need bigger solutions that are achievable but effective. There are already some companies making these small changes. For example, there is Greener Grazing, who is an Australian organization that focuses on growing the Asparagopsis taxiformis to help with methane reduction. Here is a little video explaining a little about the Asparagopsis taxiformis.
Ruminant animals, that is the 3 billion cows, goats, and sheep on the planet, are responsible for releasing vast amounts of methane into the atmosphere, which has a warming effect greater than all of the world's cars, planes, and ships combined. Our growing appetite for meat has turned livestock production into the largest source of man-made methane emissions, a potent contributor to climate change. As odd as it may sound, getting cows and sheep to belch less may be one of the most significant opportunities to combat global warming. What if we could solve this agricultural challenge through aquaculture? Imagine a world where low methane beef is made possible by seaweed farming. Scientists at James Cook University recently discovered that a type of red seaweed known as Asparagopsis taxiformis has unique natural properties that stop methane production in the guts of ruminant animals. Swapping 2% of a cow or sheep's diet with Asparagopsis seaweed could virtually eliminate their enteric methane production. Also, research has shown that it's safe for the animal and may even improve their health. But ruminants require an enormous amount of feed, so we're going to need a whole lot of seaweed for those 3 billion animals. So far, Asparagopsis has yet to be reproduced or farmed at scale. That's where Greener Grazing comes in. Greener Grazing is a groundbreaking project that is working to develop reliable and sustainable methods to cultivate Asparagopsis.
When I first heard about a type of seaweed that could help in methane reduction, I was interested, since my dad has been working with cows for 18 years, since he was 18, which means he has been in the cattle industry for over 30 years. I wanted to know what its other benefits were and what I could do to make it a bigger solution. The first thing I decided to do was see if I could find any seaweed farmers around Bali or Limbongan to learn more about seaweed farming for my quest. So I took a boat out to Nusa Lembongan, but unfortunately we couldn't find any seaweed farmers. Nusa Lembongan used to be filled with seaweed farmers, but they have all been replaced with tourism. But luckily I met Pak Misty in Nusa Penida and 2 other seaweed farmers in Nusa Dua. I asked them questions like what is the most common type of seaweed and what it is used for, and what it is commonly used for. The most common type of seaweed is the red katoni and the green katoni. It is mostly used for cosmetics, and foods such as agar-agar, which is a type of gelatin that is made from seaweed. I also decided to join Ibu Steph's high school bio class, where we went to go see Pakmisti as a class. We learned how to grow seaweed. It is grown on long pieces of string called tali ris. With that information, we brought back live samples of the seaweed back to the Greensville campus to grow them in tanks. But to get more information on the Asparagopsis itself, I decided to email Dr. Kinley. I asked him questions to get more info on the Asparagopsis taxiformis. Dr. Kinley is a livestock systems scientist, which I mentioned earlier, and also a world expert in seaweed for methane reduction in cows. I asked him a few questions about the Asparagopsis taxiformis. Dr. Kinley replied, "I'm extremely happy for him to take his time to help out for my quest." He attached some links and an image of where Asparagopsis grows around the world. As you can see, Asparagopsis grows in Indonesian waters, which I am extremely happy about. So I decided to reach out to Josh Goldman, the founder of the Greener Grazing organization. I asked him if he could maybe send me some live samples of the Asparagopsis. Josh Goldman replies with links that could help me with my quest, but unfortunately, he was not able to send me live samples due to the restrictions of bringing live things into Indonesia. With that issue, I decided to see if I could talk to seaweed farmers around Bali, if they have seen it, and if they could maybe give me some samples so I could grow in a tank as my prototype for quest. But unfortunately, due to the coronavirus and quarantine, I was not able to do that. As soon as Corona and the whole Corona pandemic settles down, I'll continue this project and hopefully carry it on as my greenstone in the future. I would like to thank my friends and family for endless support, Dr. Kinley and Josh Goldman for their expertise advice, Pakmisti and the seaweed farmers for letting me visit their seaweed farms, and quest teachers to help me through this quest journey. Thank you.